I feel that the world is inviting us to participate with her. The earth is inviting us to participate with her and to wake up out of our own self-enclosed sense of self, where our inner world and our personal outer world is of primary importance to us, and to step out of this small confining space that we live in, which has its time and place, and step out and to include more. I feel like that's what the world and the earth and these times and one another, what we're being asked to do, is to step out of the small personal way that we relate to ourselves and to one another. And I believe that the world, being in the crisis that it's in, is itself an invitation for us to step into a greater paradigm, to embrace a greater paradigm where we really begin to know ourselves as all of life. That the world's concerns are our concerns, and that that other people's suffering is our suffering on a certain way, and that of course includes all the beautiful things and the lovely things that those are aspects of ourselves as well. In order to be able to do this, in order to be able to step out of a small circle of our own, what we create as our own identity, we have to be willing to let go of the embrace of feeling the totality, to let go of these defensive structures that we may have, when we still have, over our hearts, over our minds, and in our bodies, that actually are defenses that are protecting us from knowing the truth, that we really are the whole, that we really are every little thing in existence. And if we're staying small, if we're staying in our own little personal circle of in our lives, thinking this is all we can handle, which is really a story that we tell ourselves, these habits and grooves that we get into, imagining this is as much as I want, this is as much as I can handle, this is as much as I feel that, that life is wanting from me. But that's not necessarily true. I mean, look around. The world is actually, when I say the world, I mean one another, and also all the ecosystems and all the life forms, and the earth herself is calling for a greater acknowledgement of seeing the truth of the matter, that we're all one interconnected whole, right? And we all have our parts to play in being able to be in service to the whole. And I think that the time of being in service to ourselves, primarily being in service to our small little circle that we embrace as ourselves, which is usually our family and a certain circle of friends, that is just not enough. It's just not enough. Even if it doesn't look really different, there's a way to be able to take notice and to stretch our own capacity to embrace more, to keep opening and stretching our own capacity to embrace more, and see what evolves out of that, and see what kind of invitation life gives us in ways that we might not have realized, in ways we can participate. I'm not talking about being a big savior of the planet or anything, you know? But I do believe we each have a part to play, our part, our unique part, and it's impossible to even sense that if we're stuck in this navel gazing kind of me mode that is really old. It's really time to throw that out. Throw out the me mode. Okay. I'm not saying that healing is not still being invited or that we are completely ripe in every way. But I think part of the kind of the inertia or uh, the inability that we might feel that we can't get out of ourselves comes from being so self-centered. In India, there's an age-old tradition of something called karma yoga, which is the yoga, which is the practice of selfless service and of giving. And why is that important in a certain part of phase of one's life or for one's whole life? Is because when we're in the mode of being in service to, there's less attention being placed on this personal self that is actually never fulfilled. I mean, you could be giving and giving and giving energy to trying to feel what might be out of alignment within the personal self, but by its very nature, it feels like it's a vibration or a belief of being a separate self is the feeling of being an inner division. And so by giving attention to it, it doesn't ever get resolved because it's actually a falsehood, right? There's really no intrinsic separate self. There's no center to our being that is really a you, right? And this is what the whole awakening reveals. Don't have to wait for that in order to be able to step out of that sticky, gluey, separate self sense, which is identification, to be looking outside of ourselves and saying, what else is going on here? And pull out that kind of, I don't know, it's like a heavy gravitational force, right? To be self-involved and lift oneself up enough to say, what else is going on here? And to be in service, not as an idea and as an extension of your own identity, but in order to be able to do something that stretches us, and it actually starts to thin out this kind of over-identification that consciousness has, that looks at itself and is kind of like Narcissus. It looks at itself so much, right? In the water, here's the water, and it's a mirror, it's so clear. And Narcissus, he looked into the water, into the mirror, and he was so enthralled and by his own image that he just became identified and became glued with it. Like there was no more separation there. And that is complete identification with the sense of me. And so in order to unstick that, we have to just kind of like, use a lot of willpower, I guess, or willingness to try something different and to give attention to something else, to another person. To it can start off. Many of us have, we have pets or we have children or such. But what the invitation is here in these times is to keep expanding that circle. Is like, what else can you take into your larger awareness? There are people who are suffering. There are maybe even in your own neighborhood. There may be a family who's hungry in your own community. Worldwide, I mean, the world is shrinking based on our capacity to know what's going on with the media and the internet and the web and such. It feels like it's shrinking. So what's going on way over there doesn't feel so far away anymore. And I really feel like what is going to help what can really serve these times is us to take a leap, a paradigm shift, a dimensional shift out of the me mode into the vaster reality of this self being enlarged to contain more of itself, which is like the we mode, the me mode to the we mode. We the people, we can really start to sense into that, what that means. We the people, not just me, myself, a person, but we the people have so many capacities when we come together as a collective. And that's what I'm think that this time is really asking us for, is to come out of the me mode into vaster sense of self, from the small s of self to the large s, which embraces all of itself. You see that there isn't a hierarchy here where one is more important than the other. And that's what the separate self really is about. It really is this protective kind of defensive thing that feels like it needs to protect itself at all costs and is afraid to embrace the we mode. What will it lose? Well, that's just an idea of what it will lose. And this really opens the heart. The heart is where the sense of being unified exists. The mind has a capacity to be able to sink into the heart and rest here and know itself as the whole. Mm-hmm. But until it does, it lives in this kind of imagines that the world is really truly us and them, me and that. The division of the dual nature is really rules when we operate just solely from the mind, when we come down to rest into the heart, which is the invitation to open up, to feel everything, to include everything, to know ourselves as the whole, including this beautiful divine Mother Earth who is just waiting for us to recognize that there's so many ways to be in communication and with her and with one another that is beyond this idea of separate self. When we deepen into the intelligence that the body is, which is the intelligence of the earth itself, these communication lines open up, and we become sensing beings of the divine. You may have heard of that. These antennas that we are just open up and are able to perceive and take in so much more when we're not operating from a small perspective. And it's like this perspective opens and radiates out to include more and more, and not needing to continue to be a localized separate self, but to know itself as the whole. And then the whole can work through what we are and knows what it needs, right? And knows what is needed. So I'm trying my best here to find my way into expressing what it is that I've been feeling lately. And there are always more refined ways to be able to express, but that's part of the invitation, is in the trying, being imperfect along the way, and knowing that imperfection is part of the whole, that all that we are, all that we are, that's going on right now within us, is an aspect of the wholeness, and it's really okay, and that we're really okay. We're okay just as we are. We don't need to keep working on ourselves to perfect ourselves in order to be here, in order to be feeling like we can be well used. We can be well used in whatever capacities we are at, whatever age, whatever health, whatever personal wounds we still feel like we have. We can still participate in helping create what it is that we were the potential of what we can be here. So, wishing you well. Oh, one last thing. I've been doing this lately. One last thing. Be courageous. Don't be afraid. And if you're afraid, that's included too, okay? Be courageous anyway, even if you are afraid. It's not like I'm not afraid when I do certain things. There's no fear necessarily. But something else is pushing, kind of like the life's drive, the the will for life is what's pushing us to be courageous in spite of fears, in spite of limitations. And I feel such love for what we are.